That book's closed.
Chiefs fall 24-23 in a walk-off against the Detroit Lions in preseason game number 2, the first home preseason game of the season. What's up, everybody? Ken Swanson here with Matthew Lane for the KCSN post-game show. Matthew, how we doing today?
Listen, we're doing great. That was a fun Chiefs preseason game. That was a fun game. That's from start to finish. I mean, listen, I know it didn't go the Chiefs' way at the end, but you can't tell me that you weren't having a little bit of fun the final 5 minutes of that football game, watching all of the antics on both sides of the ball. So that was a good preseason game. I think if you're a Chiefs fan, you had a lot of fun this Saturday.
Yes, you did. I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed watching this game. Yes, and it kept my attention differently than the first preseason game did, definitely. I thought, some of the guys on the second team played better, made the game a lot more watchable. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I think we probably have to start with the big news of the day. Patrick Mahomes finally goes behind the back and makes that incredible play to Travis Kelce. And even more, it kind of sounds like it may or may not have been an improvisation, Matthew.
Okay, let's cut straight to the chase. That play was 100% designed, and Pat and Travis are just going out there having fun, making sure that nobody's planning to get ready for this. You think this really wasn't planned? You
Yes.
don't think this was the play call?
I think that was the flat pick RPO.
Oh no!
Travis is supposed to go into the flat. It's technically an illegal man downfield on the pass play.
Look at Carson Wentz smiling right there. This was a called play. Look at Travis Kelce. He flips his head around waiting for the ball. He's not flipping his head around to get available.
He caught the ball 2 yards down the field.
That play was 100% designed, and Pat and Travis are trying to pull the sheets over the entire world's eyes so they can run it again in week 13 to pick up a random first down just like that. 100%.
It's an illegal man downfield. They should have got called for illegal man downfield. They're running a run play, and Travis Kelce catches it past the line of scrimmage. So if you think that's the case,
no.
I'm here to tell you.
Get away with it every day.
I love it. I think it was great. I genuinely think it was an improvisation. I trust both of them on that. And they were trying to throw him in the flat because they run that little play with a little pick play to a tight end in the flat all the time anyway. But that's
why they used it, because they know it's out there on film. So they're going to give you a play that you can find because every team runs it. And then lo and behold, they were never running that play. That was 100% planned.
I think Patrick Mahomes was even expecting Travis Kelce to work flatter to the line of scrimmage because that's kind of where the ball was placed. And Travis was already drifting upfield already as it was. So the ball comes in a little bit low and he makes a great adjustment. But I genuinely think that it was an accident. And it was kind of done out of spite. This was improvisation from Patrick LeVon Mahomes.
You're more gullible than me. You're so much more gullible than me. They are trying to make sure teams don't prepare for it. Look at this. My man was waiting for it. Travis Kelce's slow playing it. That's not a man that forgot his route or didn't know where. Look at him point. Oh, no, that was a called play.
Dude, Travis was surprised. He kind of points hey, I see what you did there. Travis was a little bit surprised by it. He was like, oh, okay. All right, I see you. No, his hands were like, oh, he did that. Oh, Look,
He turns and he's ready for it. Look at him.
no. His hands are kind of like
we can argue about this for an hour. It is 100% a called play, and they're going to do it again. It's going to look almost exactly similar because the entire point is they don't want defenses to be ready. Look at Carson Wentz. He knows that's not a face of a guy that's surprised that something happened. That's the face of a guy that saw this get rep, just like Trent Green. As soon as the play happened, talked about how they talked about it leading up to the game in their press meetings.
Splatical saying Travis was blocking, not going to the flat, though. And I do think there was like a little bit of like, yeah, I mean, in the normal concept, I think he normally kind of blocks a little bit and then runs into the flat anyway. But yeah, I don't know. I am team improv. I'm team. This was jazz. This was a little bit of jazz. This wasn't classical music. This wasn't designed. This was just off the top. Tucker, how about you break the tie here? Was that intentional or was that designed? What say you?
They literally ran that play during practice, and he did the same.
Up the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say that it wasn't planned since he's been doing it for 3 years, and they've been doing it on that same thing too.
I think he was supposed to be in the flat. I will maintain that. I will continue to argue that.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
You can do that.
I don't know. But yeah, we finally get to see the behind the back pass. Honestly, conceptually, I thought it would be something similar to that. Like, I thought that's how he would get revealed, some kind of shovel concept. I don't think. Yeah. I think, we always see him throw it behind the back in on swing routes, like they're goofing around. Like, I've always thought like the best implementation of it actually in making a significant impact would probably be him throwing it on a swing route, into the flat, kind of opposite the concept. That's always felt like a great way to utilize it. This feels like the most logical way to use it, though. Like, if you're ever going to do it, we've seen him throw the ball underneath. We've seen him kind of throw similar concepts to this. So, I don't know. It's fun.
Well, yeah. I mean, in theory, it would be really cool to throw a swing pass behind the back out towards the boundary or whatever and catch somebody slack and getting out there. But in real life, that's just so much riskier. It's such a longer throw. A lot more can go wrong. I think anytime we've ever seen them rep this as a play, anytime we've seen a practice where this has been repped as a play, it's always kind of been this. I think they've also kind of run it where a fullback or a running back comes back across the formation, and what they would normally do with a shovel, Mahomes throws it behind his back just in the same general spot to where Kelsey got it. So that's what I think you're going to get. I don't think you're getting anything with any kind of swing. It'll look like this when it comes out, but you got more on this?
I just don't think run it one more time. I just don't think it was blocked for a shovel. That's all. I don't see it blocked for a shovel. So if we can just run it one more time, I really don't think I saw it blocked for a shovel. It's not blocked for a shovel.
Yes, it is.
They're washing all. No. It's a run. It's a true RPO run left. Lucas Niang is a legal man downfield, 3 yards out, and they aren't blocking with the puller. Normally, when they run that play, they got someone pulling with it. Where's the puller? There is no puller. There's no puller. There's no puller. This is not the shovel pass. They have a pulling guard on the shovel pass. It's a play they're washing all down, and they're thrown to the flat. Lucas Niang's illegal man.
Practice.
Lucas Niang, the whole offensive line.
This isn't the same play everyone saw in practice.
The whole offensive line is 5 yards down the field. They should have called this illegal man downfield.
Yeah, because they're doing what they're
It's an RPO. Patrick Mahomes wasn't lying to you.
Yes, he was.
You were both wrong.
Anyway, we can talk about Patrick Mahomes more because it's beyond this game. Beyond Kit being wrong about this, I thought Mahomes was great throughout his time here. There's the deep pass to Worthy on the goofed up false start versus late snap, whatever it was. But then a couple of his passes to Rashee Rice, I thought the ball placement was great. The second one in particular, it was just like a nice little curl. And the way Mahomes was able to sling the ball and pull Rashee Rice upfield and then back to the middle of the field, perfectly in between two guys that were kind of converging on him for the zone was arguably a best pass of a game for any other normal quarterback in the regular season. And that was before the very planned and called back pass. So, I mean, Mahomes looks as sharp as ever. A lot of what he has done during training camp seems to be carrying over to the preseason, even though we're seeing it in small spurts.
I saw Louis Riddick say that, the best player in the world is playing in this game. Like, he has to prove to the coaches that he needs to start, that he deserves a starting job. And I thought that was very true. Just watching him, how workmanlike, how serious he took his reps, including, a brilliant improvisation on that one play that was definitely an RPO with the lineman 5 yards down the field. It was a strong workmanlike performance from him. I'm pretty consistent throughout the entirety of the game. looked to be connecting, kind of got a whole possession connecting to Rashee Rice. Like a whole possession was just kind of the Rashee Rice show. You got to see Xavier Worthy sprinkled in a little bit there. But yeah, just a really great performance from him, I think, across the board. Last time we're going to get to see him in the preseason, we're going to have to wait, another 3+ weeks before, 2.5 weeks. Is it 2.5 weeks now? Ish, roughly. Yeah. 2.5 weeks. We're looking at
a minute.
We're looking at 2.5 weeks from the next time that we get to see Patrick Mahomes play in a game. But yeah, I think that was just a nice little teaser for the first team offense. We can talk about the rest of the first team offense too, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think it's worth it. I mean, I think it's worth talking more about the first team. I guess we go to the next biggest thing down the docket, right? I mentioned Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice, I thought, had a really strong game. They were creating space for him. The Lions were just kind of sitting there playing some kind of vanilla too high defense, a lot of static kind of stuff. And it just left a lot of open space for Rashee Rice. So I thought Rashee Rice had a good game to start. And I think that might be what you see going forward in the regular season. We've been talking about it, especially when Hollywood Brown comes back. Put Xavier Worthy out there, Hollywood Brown, you're going to create a lot of space underneath for Rashee Rice or Travis Kelce, and teams are going to have to really pick their poison between kind of those four weapons. And if Rashee Rice is the fourth guy on that list, if he is the odd man out of the guys that defenses are focusing on, you could see him have a lot of volume and the short, and not even intermediate, just short range around the field where you just get him on the move a little bit and let him make things happen. And we saw last year that works really well. So it really could be a huge year for Rashee Rice, just based around all the space everybody else is going to create.
Yeah, in concept right now without Hollywood Brown, and we don't know when Hollywood Brown returns, you are looking at very similar position groups to what this team rolled out last season and ultimately won the Super Bowl, but saw some struggles. But I think the impact of a Xavier Worthy on this roster is way more significant than I think anyone thought. I think hoped. I think you always hope, right? You want to see good things. From your rookie receiver. You're always trying to get, some positive takeaways. And he's given me a lot of hope and belief in him over the course of the last, month here. And I was hopeful that we were going to see, some of the things that we've been able to see. And I know there was a play of him getting pressed into oblivion one time, but that hasn't really proven to be an issue in a limited sample size here during the preseason. I don't know how much he's going to get pressed. Oh, and by the way, the speed that he possesses was showing great impact in the game. And he came down with a touchdown. I know he double caught and all that stuff, but that play design was fantastic. And, letting him cut across the field and use that speed on an over route. I'm so excited about what he provides and what he brings to this offense and getting to see the tangible version of it. It's kind of like what we talked about when I went to the first preseason or first practice of training camp this year. And it was just watching the deep ball be back, watching the connection being made, and watching the impact that had with some of the concepts that they were using, trying to get the ball out to Rashee Rice. And Rashee Rice is sitting out there 5 yards out in the flat, just wide open and stuff like that. The pieces are there. And even when Hollywood Brown returns, it's going to be a lot more fun. But I feel good about where this offense can be rolling into week one, even if they're not going to have Hollywood Brown.
Oh, for sure. Specifically to Worthy, they've come out for 2 preseason games now while the first team receiving weapons have been in there, and they have made it quite clear that they are pushing the ball downfield and trying to get him involved. And the Lions knew that, and they sat there and they made it a little difficult. But guess what? He still got 2 deep passes on them, right? They were trying, and he still made it difficult by catching 2 passes downfield because that speed is kind of different. And we can argue about or talk about why those little things happened or didn't happen, but that's kind of half the point of the NFL when you're talking about speed. Justin Ross, not to come down on him, but Justin Ross doesn't get wide open on that touchdown because he's just not as fast, right? He doesn't make those same plays just because he doesn't have that level of speed. So making a small mistake as a defense against somebody that has the fastest combine 40 time ever in the NFL, it leads to big plays. And Xavier Worthy is showing you right now that he's going to take advantage of those. And then you look a little bit deeper and you understand, he knows what he's doing. He's not just out there running track fast. The little stutter step that he hits on his deep over to not even freeze the defensive back, but just make him hesitate for a second. And then how quickly he leaves him as he crosses his face when they kind of run what I think is going to look very similar to a wasp route in that first deep pass. You can really tell that right as he goes off screen, he's really selling a little bit of a post, it looks like, before breaking back outside. And then he has to adjust to a football. It's a good thrown football, but he still kind of has to adjust to it and reach back towards his inside shoulder. So yeah, you see legitimate wide receiver skills from him. You saw the speed on the end around. Please hold on to the football. But if you get one more better block from, I think, Jared Wiley on that play, he might score on the end around coming around. So they really got him activated. At the end of the day, you're just sitting here like, the NFL has watched Andy Reid coach Deshaun Jackson, and then they watched him coach Tyreek Hill, and then they said, I think that we should go ahead and let Andy Reid have Xavier Worthy. We should just let him have Xavier Worthy. What can he possibly do? What is he going to do with a light, fast wide receiver that can maybe outrun everybody on the field? I don't know. We don't think it'll work. He gets pressed. If he gets pressed, he might not get off the line of scrimmage. Andy Reid certainly hasn't fixed that at any point in time in his career, right? So I can't believe the NFL sat there, looked at Andy Reid's past, looked at the types of wide receivers he has elevated to stardom and said, what are the odds that he can do it again? I'm going to bet against Andy Reid developing a fast wide receiver in the NFL.
I mean, I don't know what the options are, right? Like it's, Chiefs had an opportunity to take him in the NFL draft. Some teams try to get out ahead of them. The Chiefs were on it and were aggressive to make sure that they got him at 29. Like they did a great job playing that board and getting a guy that fits that skill set perfectly. And I think there was a couple teams interested in him. It sounds like the Patriots might have been, Niners might have been, but ultimately they didn't get him, and the Chiefs were, aggressive in making sure that they knew exactly where they needed to be to get this guy. And I can't wait to see what he looks like. Hopefully he stays healthy. And I think obviously that's like the big concern for a lot of people is if he's going to be able to sustain in the NFL. And if he does, golly, I mean, it's a Deshaun Jackson type skill set. And a little bit faster too, by the way, just a little bit, just even a little bit faster. But that was fun to see. I thought the first team offense looked good. I thought the pieces of it were really solid. One of those pieces was Kingsley Suamataia. This was a great opportunity and a great sample size to get a look at him and kind of get a better feel for how he performed. I thought he performed capably, and and that sounds like a little bit like a backhanded compliment. It's not at all. This is a rookie that had some work to do, has put in a lot of work very obviously to get to where he is at this point in his NFL career. A month before the season starts, he is firmly entrenched as the starting left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's not always going to look pretty, aesthetically pleasing, I don't think, rep over rep. But I think he showed some promise in a bigger sample size than we've wanted to see. And so it was nice to get eyes on him and get a chance to kind of see what he was looking like in a game capacity.
Yeah, I want to go back and watch some more of Kingsley just to make sure, because it was kind of hard to focus on him, and it's the preseason. You're not going to dial in too much to the left tackle, especially when they're throwing behind the back passes on purpose and hitting the ball to Xavier Worthy downfield routinely. Like, you're not watching the left tackle, but I did try to tune in sometimes, and I still think that he plays such a dangerous game. He is routinely slightly off balance. I don't want to say way off balance, but slightly off balance, leaning and reaching, but he's so athletic that it never results in him like badly or completely losing a rep. But it's just, that's a dangerous game to play in the preseason against backups versus starters when you go up against like the best players in the NFL. And so, yeah, I would go with Kent. Like, he was completely and absolutely fine. I don't recall him having a massive negative play. I don't recall him having like standing out as, oh my God, that was the best thing I've ever seen. He did have a nice quick pull. They ran a GT counter, and he did pull around and make a nice little pull up through the hole and pin a linebacker. So like, you see the athleticism. I think you see the reactions and everything that he has. It's just, at this point, you're just going to ride with him. The Chiefs offensive line is going to sink or swim based around what Kingsley Suamataia can do. And right now you have to feel nothing but promise. You have to do nothing but a little bit of confidence that he can get better as the year goes on. And he's the only guy getting the job. So like, this has been a good showing so far this preseason.
There's moments, this is going to sound weird, but like, yeah, it kind of reminds me every now and then, not athletically, but just Donovan Smith kind of looked a little off balance a lot at times last year. You just kind of saw him just a little bit off balance here or there. It kind of reminds me, just a couple of the reps just did look a little bit to me, kind of like what you saw about, from Donovan Smith, I think even last year. And, it got the job done plenty, it wasn't always pretty. It wasn't always the most aesthetically pleasing reps, but watching him kind of be out over his skis a little bit from time to time, you still see that a little bit from Kingsley, but overall it's a level of left tackle that you're starting with from a baseline that I think gets the job done. And like, that's really what you need from this team. You just need him to go out there and play well and develop and continue to get better and continue to go through the process. And hopefully he can put capable left tackle play on the field because they won a Super Bowl with it last year. Tucker D. Franklin wants to jump in here.
Yeah, Vertson, Craig has ruled. He says, I think they're lying. Blocking scheme opened up for the shovel.
No, it's illegal. It's an illegal play.
It's behind the line of scrimmage.
It wasn't caught behind the line of scrimmage, and Kelsey was drifting upfield, and they were washing the whole play out. Please, excuse me.
No. I mean, listen, we're getting semantics over Kelsey catching the ball like 1 yard past the line of scrimmage or not. I understand that's the difference between a penalty and not a penalty, but like, come on, it's not like Kelsey was 5 yards downfield. He took one step upfield because the defensive end held stuck on him versus passing by him at first to chase Pat. Like that's the only difference.
If
the defensive end pushed him down.
If this was on purpose, why was Rashee Rice trying to run the pick to the flat, and why wasn't he running a vertical runaway up the field?
It's looking the same. You got to give yourself another option. Mahomes booting out. What if the defensive end sticks on Kelsey and doesn't come chase him? Is he still going to throw the behind the back? No. Mahomes has to go win the race to the edge. You have a nice little pick set there by Rashee Rice. Yup.
Nope. Travis was wrong.
Any other thoughts on the first
team was supposed to be in the flat. That's where Travis was supposed to be. That's his outlet.
Are you saying Kent? Are you saying Craig is wrong?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm fighting it.
Wow.
He still is great. He still is great.
That's fine. You're wrong. That's okay.
I think he knows which sides are which sides, and he's doing it because he knows it'll rile me up. That's what I think.
No,
I think Matty texted Craig and was like, "Hey, this question the DM. Just make sure you say that you believe it was." I think y'all are in cahoots. I genuinely.
Okay. All right. It's a 2-man game from Pat and Travis to confuse people, and you're falling right into their trap. That's why Travis got up there with his little mustache and started smiling ear to ear as soon as he was asked about it, because they know they're running a 2-man game. They're up there doing they're up there running the pick and roll on you, and you're falling for it every single time.
Matty makes a great point, because the start of his interview, he was like, "What? No, Pat. What? No, he don't let him tell you that." Yeah. And then at the end of it, he said, "No, I definitely, it was, I couldn't hear his voice. That's what it was. That's what
he started the interview with the voice thing."
Okay.
Well, yeah, but the first thing was "Don't let Pat tell you I messed up," is what he said.
You know who started with the first team or played with the first team was Carson Steele. Isaiah Pacheco got his run, and then you saw Carson Steele start his day with the first team. How about that for a transition? Pretty sloppy, pretty, kind of like an illegal man downfield on, blocking. But Carson Steele got a lot of run with the first team and was out pretty quick for a undrafted rookie standard. I mean, Deneric Prince played well beyond what Carson Steele did. Carson Steele got opportunities at fullback, which I think was on purpose. He got opportunities to carry the football, got opportunities in pass protection. Oh, and he did everything on special teams. Carson Steele is fully entrenched, I think, on this 53-man roster, and they're just giving him a look in a lot of different areas today.
Oh, yeah, he's clearly ahead of Deneric Prince and Keontae Ingram and Amani Bailey and every running back not named Isaiah Pacheco. And I don't know where he and Clyde Edwards-Helaire stack up. I wouldn't be surprised come later in the season. I don't know about the week 1, but later in the season, if he is not your clear running back too, because they put him out there with your first team offense or even the first team offense plus Carson Wentz. He was out there and they were asking him to run the ball, catch the ball, block, like in pass protection. Oh, and just in case that wasn't quite enough, they did put him as an actual the actual fullback and have him go be, a lead blocker and kick out linebackers. So they gave him all the looks you would expect out of somebody in that role. He's definitely making the team. It's like a full in lock now. It's just a matter of how much playing time is he going to see. And the more we see out of him, the versatility is surprising. You saw him make the nice little, I wouldn't say it was the sharpest angle route, but it was enough to get him some separation. He showed good hands and he ran with the ball afterwards. You saw good pass pro. You saw him block for the run. We saw him last week have some good carries of the rock. This week, the blocking wasn't great, but he was still picking up positive yards. I've been nothing but impressed about Carson Steele, and then he's out there playing special teams too. Like, this guy's making the roster. He's going to fill a role for this team. I would not be surprised if by the middle of the season, he is your clear running back too.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens with Clyde Edwards-Helaire too, but I think if you can trust Carson Steele to be a pass protector, which I thought, I think 1 or 2 reps we got to see him actually do it, look great. Got to see him as a lead blocker, look great. Yeah, the hands out of the backfield. capable hands out of the backfield. I've compared him to Darrell the Barrel Williams from a role fit perspective, where it's a guy that you can trust in pass protection and go run out in the flat, catch the ball, and get the tough yardage that are there. Maybe doesn't have an elite gear to run away from people, but is going to do all the dirty work necessary at the running back position. That's what he reminds me of. Carson Steele feels very Darrell Williams from a type of football player. They're different a little bit with their skill set, just a little bit, but what they're asked to do ultimately, a lot of that is, there's a lot of crossover in that. I've been very impressed with him. This is a 21-year-old kid. There's a lot of tread on the tires. He was everything except, he's dense, powerful, strong. He's not overly explosive from a linear speed perspective, but it was good to see. It was good to see that, and I think he's firmly supplanted himself as RB2 on this roster until Clyde Edwards-Helaire returns, personally. So, I'm more fascinated at this point what happens between Clyde and him. Honestly, I'm more fascinated by that than anything.
No, for sure. I think you got to see how that transition works, and how reliable is Clyde going to be? He's been off and on the injury report for a non-physical injury reason. I don't it is what it is. He needs to get everything that he has, worked out to where he feels healthy and where he needs to be in his life. But how reliable is that guy for, the team in and week out? Or is it going to have to be the young guys? And I think we saw enough of Carson Steele getting the reps he did and Deneric Prince getting the reps he did to say, I don't know if Deneric Prince is or is not making the team, but he is definitely pretty strongly behind Carson Steele if they have to rely on those guys. I mean, early in the season or any point in time. So yeah, let's roll with Carson Steele, see what he can do. Another guy that I think has kind of moved himself into a lock for the roster, it was more like second team or like the 1.5 team reps a little bit, but Sky Moore, for a lot of special teams, a lot of first team special team reps. He had some good kick returns. Hey, Sky Moore, when he's not worried, I guess, about catching the punt in the sun and he fields a kickoff, he's a decent returner because he just gets north and south pretty fast and he does have good speed. He is relatively explosive. So Sky Moore looked good as a returner. He's working on the first team kick coverage. He gets some reps with the first team offense, especially in Hollywood Brown's absence.
Forced to fumble.
We are trending strongly towards Sky Moore being a lock for the team as well.
I think so too. And I think it was kind of trending that way when Hollywood Brown got hurt anyways, where, we're seeing him step in immediately and just replace him. That at least tells you where this team is in the pecking order, where he is in the pecking order and where he is in consideration. In a pinch, they wanted to throw him out there. They trust him. They believe that he can, run all the positions. Whether or not that really means he has a true game day role on the offense remains to be seen. He might get a little bit of burn. I think Justin Watson will still probably outsnap him offensively, but they're still probably, you're probably going to see him, active on special teams, playing a little bit on offense. I think he's if you're going to put a number on him, he's probably wide receiver 5 for this team, I think, at this point.
Yeah. I mean, 5, 6, I don't want to argue semantics depending on the roles that guys end up playing for whatever reason, but I feel pretty comfortable putting him in there in that 5, 6 range, but a lock for one of the two, and we'll see how the rest of it plays out. And I think that's going to upset some fans, but if you see the positive special teams reps, you hear what everybody talks about, how he knows all the stuff. He knows all the playbooks. He knows all of the wide receiver positions. And you're looking at a team that does have, for all intents and purposes, Justin Watson, who's been dealing with an injury, Hollywood Brown, who has routinely been dealing with an injury, Rashee Rice, whose suspension may come this year. It may not, but there's a potential suspension that might come at some point in time. Xavier Worthy, who's a slider guy who also might, have had an injury he's worked through. Having somebody that can play a position that any of those guys also play makes a lot of sense, especially if he's filling the special teams role. It's the ultimate utility wide receiver / special teamer. It makes a lot of sense to keep that guy around if you have the faith in him. And it is nice for him to be making some plays for this team, even if they're not always directly offensively. He is making an impact on this team with other starters at different times.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. KCSN.substack.com.
Thanks for everybody for hanging out with us tonight. Chiefs fall in preseason game number 2. Quick reminder for you: the KCSN golf tournament is the Saturday after the Chiefs beat the Ravens in week 1 of the regular season. It's a great opportunity for you to help raise money for the KCSN Foundation. A lot of great charities that we do stuff with every year. It's a chance to help fund those initiatives. So please consider doing that. You can find more information out on our social media. Still some spots available. It's a really special time. You get a bottle of KCSN's barrel pick from Holiday Distillery. You're going to get great food, like ridiculous food the entire time you're there. You're not going to be full, or you're not going to be hungry ever when you're out there. So yeah, make sure you are checking that out. Okay. One thing I don't, how many other, do you have a ton left on the offense? I only had a couple other things.
No, not really. I mean, we'll work into later in the week when we do the lab and stuff, we'll talk about guys that, were further down the depth chart and things like that. I think this is mostly an emphasis on guys that are pushing that first team or as an actual role going forward.
I will just say, I thought some of the young offensive linemen did take a step from last week to this week. So that was really good to see. I thought there was some improvements from Ethan Driscoll, Hunter Norzad. So good on them. That group just looked a lot better during the game than they did last week. So good on them for showing some improvements there.
Oh, and we need to throw to Tucker. D stands for Breaking News Franklin, because he's been over here waving for the rock and is just ISO'd up on the elbow.
I'm in the corner, hey.
You're probably ineligible downfield.
My defender's in the lane, and I'm just waving in the corner. I'm posting up here. Speaking of offensive guys, before you guys move on to the defensive side of the ball, this tweet from Harold Kuntz here. He said, Andy Reid on Carson Steele. He's got a lot of good snaps on the young guys and the depth on the O-line, D-line. The young guys got a lot better when it comes to the behind-the-back pass. Sam McDowell tweeted, Chiefs coach Andy Reid on the Patrick Mahomes behind the pass pack, quote, I'm glad he completed it.
Because it was improv. Anyways, let's move on to the defensive side of the football. Jaden Hicks, I think, continues to ascend as a player worth paying a lot of attention to. He's a 4th-round pick out of Washington State. Some people that I really respect had him as safety 1 in this class. I think that was Dane Brugler had him as safety 1. I don't know how the Chiefs got him in the late 4th round, but he's looked every bit of a guy that deserved to be drafted a lot earlier than he was, Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Hicks continues to be really good. I think especially when they use him as a split safety or when they drop him down to the box. I do think that we saw him get stretched out a little bit in his role and have to play as like a slot man defender a little bit down the stretch in that first half. And he gave up a fair bit of space and some big plays because he was oversetting on his leverage and stuff like that. And those are things that with time will probably come for, Hicks, but that's also not going to be his role. Maybe he becomes a good tight end, man-to-man defender at some point in time in his career because he has the size and the athleticism. But if he doesn't, that's okay. We don't have to push that. He can definitely do a different role. And has looked really good. He's made a lot of big plays early in both games when the tackling hasn't been particularly great or the energy hasn't been great. He's kind of been the guy that's bringing it. And I think that's really important because I'm going to say this. Chamari Connor has not looked as great these first 2 preseason games. And it's kind of been the same exact stuff that Hicks has been good at, bringing energy, flying downhill quickly, taking good angles, making tackles. Those are things that Connor did pretty well last year. And I think this year, as again, they're expanding his role to do more things, he's struggled a little bit more with that. So it's been nice to see Hicks kind of step in and fulfill that role while Connor's still trying to get used to this new position, new role that he's playing on the team.
Yeah, I definitely did. There was a late first half was a little bit of a rough stretch for Hicks trying to play in coverage, a little bit off balance, trying to get hands on guys, and even at the play at the end zone, probably a little bit too handsy. Probably got away with a PI there as well. So definitely some things that he's going to have to continue to improve on. But if he's not put in that position all too much to have to do that, there's so much other positives that have come out of that tape in the last 2 games that, watching him fly down and make plays in the flat aggressively and really have great ability to close downhill and make some plays. That's great to see. Some coverage stuff definitely has to continue to work on, and it will. I think he's still got time there, but what he's done to this point is so worth where they drafted him, and it's ridiculous that he got taken. I'm so encouraged by him and what he's brought to the table.
No, he's been great. I mean, like, yeah, he's been great. He's going to have a role. Obviously, when Justin Reed comes back, it might be kind of difficult to see what his role is right away, because I think there's a lot of crossover between where Reed and Hicks are going to play. And you will probably have some difficulty putting those two guys on the field together. As we said, like, his biggest issue right now has been in man coverage. It's been in like those situations. So are you really going to pull, or put him on the field with Justin Reed and get a Brian Cook or, a Chamari Connor off the field? Maybe if Connor's struggles continue into the regular season, that's an option. And that's good to have Jaden Hicks, who by my own board would have been a higher graded prospect coming out than what Chamari Connor was. So maybe he does end up winning a job over him eventually. But either way, I like him in the safety room. I think he provides good insurance for Justin Reed, and that's a good person for him to kind of learn under, because they have a similar skill set. And so, yeah, that was nice. It's nice to see him building on back to back, or make a second good, strong preseason showing. I would say the cornerback room around him maybe played a slight step better this week than the first game. So that was good to see. You didn't feel like the outside players were necessarily being picked on all game long. It was just kind of down the stretch when they got like the third and fourth stringers on in there. But I also don't think anyone stood out necessarily as having a great game from the Chiefs secondary. So it seems like that cornerback battle is just going to continue to linger, and it's going to be hard to get settled.
I don't think anyone's going to have great clarity outside of the building in Kansas City either. Like, I don't think what we've seen.
They don't have great clarity.
Sure. Yeah. I just mean, like, even great hints on where it's heading. There's nothing that's going to surprise me entirely if the Chiefs decide that they want to roll out Najee Johnson, and Najee Johnson's rolling out with the first team, in week 1 against the Ravens. Like, I'm not going to be completely floored if that happens. Joshua Williams obviously seems to be someone that could have a leg up. And a Jalen Watson, but like, I just think there's going to be a lot of murkiness and mystery around it, because I don't think there's anything that we've been able to take away that says, truly this player has stepped up. This one hasn't. This one's, the same guy. This is who they feel comfortable with, especially considering some of the stuff with like a Joshua Williams, like not a ton of mental mistakes I don't think I saw today. So like, there's that at least, right? But that's a step in the direction, but is that enough to unseat some, or put him there, or is someone going to unseat him like a Najee? There's going to be, when we talk about the Chiefs Ravens game, one of the questions is going to be, who is cornerback 2? Like, that's going to be the question we roll out. Like, that's going to lead the show when we start talking about the defense in a couple weeks.
I mean, it's Jalen Watson, I think, is corner 2. It's a matter of who's corner 3, and is Watson corner 2, because you can't say he's corner 2 because I would say this carefully. It's not that he played so good this year that he's your corner 2. He's corner 2 because nobody else took the job while he was unable to play. And he's kind of been the guy that they've de facto put in there in that spot. Not to say that he can't be good, or that he wouldn't be my choice or anything like that for it. It's just not that he has come out like gangbusters this year and absolutely taken that job from everybody else. Now, the question will be, can somebody unseat him? How does it get figured out? And like, we won't have an answer. It doesn't seem like we are going to get that answer. You're probably going to get a heavy dose of Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams. Najee Johnson might be sprinkled in, and they might do that rotating third corner. Maybe they'll do a rotating corner 2 and 3, as much as none of us probably want that. But I do think that they have hard narrowed this down to those 3 guys, because I think more so than anything else, I think the cornerback room, like rotation, is kind of becoming a little bit more clear. Kelvin Joseph played deep into the fourth quarter. Echo Boy Doe, deep into the fourth quarter. Keith Taylor, deep into the fourth quarter. Those guys probably aren't competing for corner 2 or corner 3 if they're getting all those reps anymore. Kamal Hayden, not it. Like, just not it this year. Maybe he makes the practice squad and they can figure it out, but he looks like he's in a little over his head as he's transitioning into the slot for this season. Nick Jones, I don't think they see a huge role for, because the same thing. He's playing deep in games. I'll say the one guy that's impressed me, Chris Roland Wallace.
Yeah.
Safety, nickel, like, yeah, he might be a little bit limited where they play him. They might not see him as a full-time outside corner, but if I'm picking one guy from all these names that I've said who just seems to have a continuous stock up through training camp in the preseason, Roland Wallace might be making a push to be their 6th cornerback, or at least be a guy that they really want to slip onto their practice squad.
And he's like a slot only guy too at this point. Like, I don't think we've seen any outside reps from. So this is a guy that is slot only, a Christian Roland Wallace. But man, he has looked pretty good in a very limited sample size that we've got to see of him, and has some of that requisite physicality that this team really prefers too. Like, that's one of the things that kind of stands out, is like he's he's a participant in the run fit where, and that's a good trait to have, especially since you're more on the safety side than you are an outside boundary corner. So he's definitely stood out. I think special teams is going to continue to be a factor for him. So if he's, I kind of want to go back and see how much run he got on special teams and how early on special teams Christian Roland Wallace got, because like that matters. I think that kind of tells you where this thing's heading. But seemed like pretty positive reviews from him from the booth too, and that normally can kind of tell you like some of the perspective. I'll tell you one. I know I don't want to switch to the offense too quickly, but like just the way that Ari Wolf and Trent Green were talking about Nico Remigio didn't give me the warm fuzzies. It was more like, it's kind of hard to make. It's kind of hard to it's going to be really hard to crack this rotation here. But we'll see how things go. Like the way they were kind of talking about him made me less warm and fuzzy about Nico Remigio making this roster. But that's things you got to pay attention to, is like, how they're talking about that. They started talking about Kadarius Toney, a little bit, and like, well, coach isn't gonna like that, and just kind of like the tone was a little bit more negative than you think. So I don't know. I'm paying attention to some of that. Anybody else on the defensive side of the ball stand out to you?
Yeah, okay. Without Nick Bolton, and Justin Reed, I would say it's the combo. The communication across the middle of this defense and pass coverage is really bad. And it's hard to isolate it down to one guy because they've been missing both of them right now. But the amount of times that you have seen a Connor or a Cochran or a Leo Chenal or somebody else just like having bad spacing, not passing guys off and closing down on receivers at the right time, the timing around like just the coverage over the middle of the field has been pretty poor. It's 2 preseason games. You're running very vanilla stuff, but hey, the Chiefs went out and ran a zone blitz on like their first third down and kind of got cooked for it. So Spags isn't going out there with the most basic of stuff. It seems like they are missing some of that communication. They're not all on the same page, which is expected in preseason. But I will say, like, that is something I got my eye on. If you do lose a Nick Bolton for an extended period of time at any point in time during the season, or Justin Reed, let alone both of them, like, yeah, it might be a little scary over the middle of the field for a team that is going to have some outside cornerback questions as well. Like, there's just a lot of questions that can be creeping up around this team's ability to cover receivers and tight ends all at once, and we haven't seen them at full strength. So it's not a panic thing, but I do think that there is a little bit of a gap in between the linebacker and the safeties over the middle of the field.
We've seen all the FAU, Felix Anudike, Uzama discourse on the chat. And yes, we will go ahead. We can just get into the discourse right now. We need to probably talk a little bit about Felix Anudike, Uzama. Yet again, played a lot of snaps in this game. Yet again, leaving a lot to be desired from the 2022 or 2023 first round pick, Matthew.
Yes. It's the preseason. Okay. Let's go all the way back. This is a developmental player that was young, that played in a funky defensive system to transition to the NFL with the tight fronts, given his body type and everything, doesn't have a ton of experience. You expect a longer developmental curve for FAU. If you get to the end of year 2 and he is still not a starter or even a high-end rotational player, it doesn't mean it's completely over, but your odds of that guy becoming a significant piece of a team are very, very low. We aren't there yet, but right now we're looking for signs of growth. We're looking for signs of development from FAU, and I don't think we're seeing enough. As of right now, it's the preseason, but I haven't seen an increase in physicality versus the run. I haven't seen any better of a run defender. Yeah, he's a little bit quicker to get off the ball, but for a guy that's a relatively freak athlete, he doesn't get off the ball like a freak athlete. He's just getting off the ball on time. And he looks like any other player getting off the ball on time. The guy that, like, the whole thing was, well, at the very least, he's going to give this speed rush. And every now and then, you saw it last year. In the preseason, it just seems so hit or miss that he's even able to press with speed up the arc. He doesn't look like a freak athlete. So it's just, I have some hesitations. I have some reservations about him. I'm not trying to write him off at this point in time, but we're getting into the third quarter against a team that's not playing their starters, and you're still kind of a ghost out there in the preseason. That's not a good look.
You're not seeing him flash as much as you would hope to. Obviously, the unblocked play where he's able to get his hand up and beat the throw to the flat was impressive. That was great to see. And there's a couple things he's been able to do with his movement skills when he's unblocked. He can come around on a stunt. If you don't account for him, he can sometimes blow a play up here or there. It's been a little bit inconsistent, I think, reading as an unblocked man, which has been a little bit concerning too, because you can't always just fly around and trigger. Sometimes you have to really process the play as an unblocked man, and that's been a little bit up and down too. I think one thing that I've noticed now, and I think we've got more of a sample size of it, is when we talk about play strength, and we've focused a lot of the conversation on play strength from a run defense perspective. I think it's showing up a lot more in the pass pro too. Like again, in his pass rush, I think, you're seeing a lack of play strength as a pass rusher. I think too, not being able to really run through a tackle. You're having to go up the arc. You're not really having the play strength to turn a corner and finish leaned into a tackle as much. It's a struggle for him to be as consistent there. And I think he's easily washed out of plays running up the arc too. So how he is being deployed and how he is able to find success as a pass rusher is narrowing even further for me too. And that's what's I'm a little bit concerned about. And a lot of the problems and questions that we had heading into the season and after week 1 and today still exist.
I want to see flashes, man. I just want to see more flashes. A great athlete, high end ceiling. Let's see the flashes of the ceiling. It's one thing if you're in a preseason game and you play deep into it because you're inconsistent and still developing, but you show me in the third quarter, you rip off a great rush. You rip off a Taco Charlton rush that you only see one time in the season, but by God, you hit that little skip with the rip or the two-hand swipe coming off of it, and you just have this beautiful pass rush. And I can sit there in the back of my mind and say, okay, see, it's all right there. We see it. You just got to get better at it and more consistent. We haven't really seen that with FAU through 2 games. I would argue this game showed even less of those kind of higher end traits than we saw in the first week against the Jags. And it felt like he was trying to be in more control and working through a tackle or not getting so far up the arc, which led to him getting swallowed up by offensive tackles routinely because of the play strength. So I just want to see the flashes. We need to start seeing the flashes. It's not even about setting a floor now. I think we're back to let's see the flashes from FAU that we can work towards, not even giving us the floor to get them on the field. So you got one more game where I assume he's going to get plenty of run against, again, some second and third string guys. Like you would really like to see him start to show off some of those high end traits again.
They need a defensive end bad. I think they need to add another defensive end quickly. They need to be pretty intentional about that right now. I think it's Felix Anudike-Uzomah and Malik Herring sitting out there right now behind George Karlaftis and Mike Dana. And I think they need to lengthen that lineup a little bit. I think they need to add, more bodies to that group because right now it's concerning. I thought Truman Jones had a pretty good game, but I don't think Truman Jones is a rotational player right now either. It's fun to see him make a few plays here or there, but I don't think it's not me advocating to throw him out there right now. I think they need to try to get somebody from the outside. They need to be doing some work on defensive ends that teams might feel comfortable moving on from, be it a veteran. They need to be paying attention to the, to the release players. I mean, I don't think there's a ton of guys.
A Matthew Judon who's only due $6.5 million gets traded for a 3rd round pick. I don't know.
Maybe. That Judons don't grow on trees. It would have been nice to see them get in on that one, but I think they got some work to do there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't want to write them off yet. I just need to start seeing some flashes. And
for sure, it's not a complete write-off. No,
I would assume the Chiefs are in the same boat too, though. They left him in there. I mean, they don't have a lot of defensive ends. So, I also think that Felix had to play a lot of snaps because they can't have Karlaftis getting hurt, can't have Dana getting hurt. So, he probably played a lot of snaps, got a little tired at times. I 100% understand that, and that could be some of the reason the flashes weren't there. But they do need somebody out there, and they think that he needs the reps because they're leaving him out there that deep into games. It's just, I think they are trying to figure out what they have or don't have. They tried kicking the tires on an Agba. Now they're seeing what Felix has, and they are going to see if they have to make a move when those round of cuts come down.
All right. Anything else on the defensive side of the ball, Matthew?
Cam Jones, good special teams tackle. I think he goes in the same bucket, though. There's just miscommunications over the middle of the field, especially in coverage, but I like him versus the run. I can't speak too much on the defensive tackle rotation right now because, there's no Chris Jones, but I do think Tershawn Wharton continues to look actually really good. He looks like he's added more size the longer he's been in the NFL. He looks like he's quicker again, like he was before the ACL injury. And so he's coming along very nicely in his career in the NFL. Mike Pennell had some nice plays in there. So I don't love this defensive tackle room. I really don't. I think they could also use somebody there, but they're at least showing enough that I think as long as Derek Nottie comes back healthy at some point in time, early enough in the season, you might be able to get by with the guys they have to the same level that it has been the past, 2 Super Bowl winning teams.
Should we just? I know the Chiefs have lost two post games, or two games here, and so the post game hasn't had a chance for us to do toast game. Should we just do a little toast game anyway?
Sure, let's do a toast game anyway.
Let me do this real quick.
Here,
Please
I'll
hold
get you.
on.
I'll hit the promo video for you so you can get your supplies. Okay,
I'm not running for a glass though, but
here we go.
We're improvising here like Patrick Mahomes did, and that's who my toast game is going to right now. That is Patrick Lavon Mahomes for a fantastic improvisation on that play to go behind the back on a luckily it wasn't called illegal man down the field, but what a sick play from Patrick Lavon Mahomes to Travis Kelce. Great job there. Oh, like Tucker's got it up again. Look at that. So my toast game is going to Patrick Lavon Mahomes for also staying healthy throughout the entirety of the preseason slate in which he will be participating in.
Cease and desist, buddy.
Encroaching on my territory there.
It's not good health. That's not what I said.
I'm going to go to Xavier Worthy for my toast game. I mean, the guys we just talked about, like the highlights of the show, right? But I'm going to Xavier Worthy because the Chiefs clearly came out to highlight him. Andy Reid said it in his little presser. He's like, hey, we want to show everybody what we can do with this guy. And he came in and made it count. He has the big play down there onto the corner. He gets a touchdown from Carson Wentz, has a nice little dance. You can clearly see this guy is going to be a problem. And the NFL screwed up by letting the one type of wide receiver that Andy Reid has had more success with than anybody else in the NFL, and they let him get another one. Let's go Xavier Worthy. Shout out.
I love it. Tucker, you got anything?
I do. I want to give a big shout out, a big toast game, a big hefty toast, a good 4-finger pour to Noah Gray for stepping in and long snapping. While James Winchester goes down, he did come back later in the game. Doesn't appear that there were any injuries coming out of this game. James Winchester did return for the last punt there that they had to go for Matt Araiza.
Listen, some are saying the Chiefs win if Noah Gray is the one that snaps the final punt because that wasn't a good snap.
Look, Matt Araiza had some good punts.
Oh, he was
Noah Gray's with Noah Gray
punts.
snaps. Yeah, with Noah Gray
Great
snaps. I had tip to Noah Gray for stepping in a situation that you really don't foresee happening. Usually, your long snapper getting hurt, considering he's on the field for like not a lot of time, but he stepped in, snapped well. Not an easy position, but he came through.
What if that was staged? What if the injury was staged?
Oh boy.
Was it Travis Kelce saying that he's never seen Noah Gray long snap, and then he just walked in there and he did it not only for punts but also a field goal, right? Like he did two different kinds of long snaps here. So like, hey.
Well, I can tell you this. Travis Kelce comes down to practice at the last possible second. So like maybe that's why.
No.
Him.
Kent doesn't believe that either, just like he doesn't believe the Chiefs have run that behind the back pass before.
Hey, we should shout out Tucker D. Franklin for all the tremendous work he did covering training camp this year. I mean, my man was out there. He was with the people. He was taking the videos and posting the clips so everybody can get looks at this 2024 Kansas City Chiefs team. So shout out Tucker D. Franklin. Good job, buddy.
Thanks.
Yep. Well, that is going to do it for the KCSN post-game show. We will be back next week to cover the last game. I can't wait. That'll be fun. We'll just be talking about good improv, Matthew. That's going to do it for us. We'll catch you later.
Planned. I can show you the playbook.